The final days of our masculine and feminine shadows being against each other, opposition in astrology, is finally coming to a close. For a long time, like many months, and really the previous year in our chart in astrology, we've had Chiron, the wounded healer, and it has to do a lot with our masculine wounds as well, in opposition to the dark moon. Now, Chiron did retrograde. We've kind of done a back and forth with this. It was heightened at the end of December, okay? So there's a lot of stuff going on December time where we had this kind of peak of an opposition of the feminine shadows and the masculine shadows. Forever grateful that we're moving on from this. And during February this month of 2025, we are starting to be done with this full-on opposition of the dark moon in Libra and Chiron, the wounded healer, in Aries. Which means we finally get to move on from these shadows having this ruling conversation over kind of everything else that's happening in the chart, even though they're lesser placements. So if you found yourself in positions and places in your life where maybe your internal masculine and feminine, maybe it's in your interpersonal relationships, however that might work for you. And we're probably going to see it on a collective level shifting to, although I don't know exactly what that would look like yet, just know that probably is going to happen. They're not going to be having such a large conversation moving into the end of February. They're still pretty much in opposition to each other. They're just going to be outside of a 5-degree orb, so it's not going to be as in your face, even though it might still be a little bit in your face, if you know what I mean, Okay, so it's we've been having this big conversation about the feminine and the masculine and our wounds and how are we working with them and what does that mean? And this time in February, we finally start to get to move on from the conversation itself and start doing something with it rather than having to talk about it and heal from it. It's now we get to move on and we get to keep moving forward. So how are you moving forward and what are you moving forward with? How are you taking action? How are you receding? And what is it that you really need in those shadows? The previous year and the final months of 2024 helped us figure that out. Now we get to be done. Now we get to go on and maybe have some fun. Hopefully, I want to have some fun. That sounds good to me. You're telling me that the darkest is done? The darkest, hardest is finished? Okay, thanks. That sounds fantastic. Maybe not the darkest, hardest in the grand scheme of things, but within the dark moon and the Chiron placements. Okay, so let me be more specific. Let me have more specific. Also, if there's anything within your Aries and your Libra that have been difficult in your chart, this is bringing things to an end as well with that. Venus and Mars, which interestingly enough, we've got Venus going retrograde soon in Aries, no less, no doubt about that. And we also have Mars that's retrograde right now in Cancer. So both within the light and the darkness, masculine and feminine have been really trying to figure it out for a while. The Venus retrograde that's coming up is going to be the finalization of the feminine figuring out a position on moving forward. Masculine right now is doing that more in the light terms or the not so dark, the brighter terms with the Mars retrograde. Not necessarily associated as much with the Chiron and the dark moon opposition, but Chiron is in Aries, which is ruled by the Mars, so there's a crossover there. That's true. What I do know on a big picture is that this is going to be work over the next couple of months while we come out of this, because we are going to have to recover some things. I made a video about that recently on here. I'm pretty sure it's the Venus retrograde is about recovering ground. It's the feminine recovering ground. Okay, feminine. So in that recovery, I know I'm looking forward to the full moon. It's April 13th. April 13th, we have a full moon happening in Libra, which is ruled by Venus. And it was less than 24 hours before that full moon. Venus is going to go direct. Yeah. Sign me up, bro. Sign me up, dude. Yeah. That's the aspect I'm most excited for coming out of this. Specifically talking about the feminine and the masculine hardship, back and forth, whatever's been going on in your life and in, your world with that energy. Yeah, sign me up. Yeah, sign me up. Let's have a great full moon on April 13th. And it's the 13th connected with the mother. Yeah, let me be free of it. I don't even really at this moment know exactly what that is, but let me be free of it. Let us get up and out of it. Let's move on. The previous Venus retrograde smacked me. I don't know when it cut off. It smacked me on the head a couple times. And now I'm done. That's what this Venus retrograde's allowing us to do. Close it out. Ground something new. Bring in the recovery. We're moving on. And the shadows of this dark moon and Chiron that are not going to be in such a direct opposition in the coming month is going to make that so much easier. It's going to make it a lot easier. We got the shadow figured out. Okay, well now we just got to walk about it. Now we got to talk about it. Now we got to be in the action part of things instead of in the internal dwelling and yelling. Yeah, thank you. Gratitude, reverence, and love to you. Keep happy, brew. Keep doing what you need to do. I will too. I'll talk to you soon. Shout out to everybody who's been conversing over in the online coven space. The community organization space is not just the coven space, the community organization space. I haven't been able to keep up with everybody. Y'all are some chatters. I love to see. That's it. I'll talk to you soon. Let us be free of it. I'm looking forward to being done. Let get to the other side of the Venus retrograde. Things are going to be a little bit more fun. So here we go.